guys, Jim with Prevelo Bikes here. Today we're going to show you how to assemble a Bravo 2. Alright, so let's get started. So first thing, open up the box, pull out the bike. Now with the bike out of the box, we just want to go ahead and remove all of the packing material. Alright, so with the bike unpacked, we're going to move into the first step of assembly, which is installing the handlebar into the stem. So in your parts box is a small 4mm Allen key. You're going to use this Allen key to unscrew the 4 faceplate bolts. To unscrew the bolts, insert the Allen key and turn the bolts counterclockwise. That's lefty-loosey. And when I remove these bolts, I like to just let them kind of dangle in the stem. This just makes reassembly of the faceplate a little bit simpler for me. So I'm going to take the faceplate and set it aside. And then just go ahead and lift your handlebar into place. You don't have to have the handlebar in the perfect position right now. We're going to do that as we start to tighten up the faceplate itself. But what you want to make sure is that the brake lever is on the right side of the bike or the same side as the chain. And then just go ahead and lift your faceplate back up. And then I just start snugging these bolts into place. So to make sure that you didn't accidentally flip this upside down, at the top of the stem it's going to say no gap and it's going to point to a little arrow, so those things should line up. Then once you kind of just thread the bolts in a little bit by hand, I try to get the handlebar centered so you have the center mark on the bar, just to make sure the bar isn't like slid from side to side. And once you get it centered, you also want to pay attention to the rotation of the handlebar. So I like to get the brake lever about 45 degrees from level ground. Some riders might have a preference where the handlebar or the brake lever is up more or down more. But for a general rule of thumb, we're just going to set the brake lever at about 45 degrees from level. And then this stem where it says no gap on the top, that's actually referencing how to tighten the stem. So usually when you tighten the stem, you go in a Krause pattern and go like 1, 2, 3, 4. And you keep the gap at the top and the bottom of the stem even. But on this stem, it calls for no gap. So to start, we're going to fully tighten both of the bolts on the top. And while you're tightening it, just make sure it's level. Not level, but level and centered. So you can just make sure through the little window on the stem that those lines are even. So once you get those top 2 bolts snugged up, you can turn the wrench into this position. I usually leave it this way so it makes it easier to get the bolts driven in. And once you need to get some torque, put the wrench in like this and get those bolts nice and tight. This wrench is short on purpose so that you don't over tighten the bolts and break the stem. And then you want to move to the bottom 2 bolts. So I get both bolts snug, and then once they're snug, I'll turn the wrench and then torque everything down fully. I just like to work my way back and forth just to make sure that everything is even. And then I'm just going to give a final check to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, your handlebar is installed. Okay, so the next step is to install the pedals on the bike. So you pull the pedals out of your parts box, and then pedals are right and left specific. So the pedals are going to be labeled with an R and an L, and the crank will be labeled with an R and an L. If you remove the packing stickers like I did, you can tell the difference between the right and the left because each pedal says Prevelo on it. So if you're the rider and you're standing over the pedals, you'll be able to read Prevelo. If Prevelo is upside down, switch the pedals over. Okay, so the right pedal is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. But a little trick is when you just insert the pedal, I'm going to hold on to the spindle when I do this. Okay, because it's got bearings, so it's just going to rotate if you hold on to the pedal body. So hold on to the spindle. And then you can thread it in while you pedal the bike backwards. If you pedal forwards, it's going to unscrew. So you're going to back pedal the bike, so it's going to make that noise. And the left pedal will do the same thing. So left pedals are lefty-tighty. They're opposite threaded. This is so that when the bike is ridden, the pedal doesn't unthread itself. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. Hold on to the spindle. And then I'm going to back pedal the bike to thread the pedal in. Since this works on both sides, to make this quick, you can grab both pedals, back pedal the bike, and the pedals will thread themselves in. Okay. Now, unlike traditional pedals, since this bike has a really narrow Q factor, the pedals sit inboard. We tighten the pedal from the back side with an Allen key, not a wrench like from the front. And so a 6mm Allen key. This is going to be in your parts box. I put the pedal or the whole crank at about 45 degrees. Insert my Allen key into the back of there. And then you can use the tire for extra force to get the pedal tight, because pedals should be super tight, basically as tight as you can make them. So if you spin this backwards, it doesn't put any pressure on the crank, but if you spin it forward, you can see the pressure, okay? So what I do is use that pressure to get the pedal extra tight. So I'm gonna hold the wrench, hold the wheel, and push them against each other and get that pedal as tight as I can, okay? And do the same thing on the left side. I'll get my Allen key in there, hold my wheel, pull it nice and tight. Okay, now the pedals are installed. Okay, so this next step is going to be unique to the Bravo 2. So the seat post that comes in this bike is long for taller riders, which means that the post itself actually can't go all the way down into the frame to lower the seat all the way down. So in the parts box is a secondary seat post. This is a short seat post that allows for full insertion down into the frame. So if you want to switch to the shorter seat post, what we're going to do is loosen up the seat post clamp. So you do this with the 5mm Allen key in your parts box. And this is just going to be loosened as lefty-loosey, so it's counterclockwise. You don't have to unthread the bolt all the way. You just want to get it loose enough to let the seat rotate. And then you're going to go ahead and slide the seat out of the bike. So we just want to remove the seat from the seat post. So the Bravo series uses a pivotal seat, which is a kind of a unique seat system. So instead of having rails underneath the seat, and like a bolt on the back or two bolts like this, the seat is actually bolted straight through, so the bolt enters the top of the seat through this little slit. So we're going to use a 6mm Allen key. You got to get it in the slit, and sometimes you kind of got to fish for the bolt a little bit. So once you're in there, just break it loose. It's lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, so we're just going to unscrew this to the left. So until the seat comes off the post, and then set the long seat post aside. Okay, so you can kind of see this seat is ribbed on the bottom, and then the bolt comes through. Those ribs are to help you angle the seat and position it. Okay, so with our short seat post, you can actually just kind of grab this and thread it on there. And then the seat post is going to have some text, so that text is going to go towards the rear of the seat. And then we're just going to tighten this up a little bit. We don't want to fully tighten this until it's on the bike. So that way, once it's on the bike, we'll be able to adjust the angle so we can have it tilted up or down. Okay, so with our seat mounted on the post, we're going to go ahead and slide the post down into the frame. Now it's worth noting that on the back of the post, that text says minimum insertion. So that minimum insertion mark should not be visible. So you want to make sure that that is down inside the frame. If you can read this, the seat post is too high. Okay, so we're going to slide that down into the frame. So get the seat where you want it height-wise. If you're going to slam this, just know that it does get a little hard to get in there with a wrench because you don't have a lot of space. Okay, but we're going to get the seat post down, and then the 5mm Allen key we're going to use to tighten up the clamp. So this is going to be righty-tighty, so you're going to tighten the bolt clockwise, so just like any standard bolt. And then before you fully torque it, just make sure the seat is lined up with the top tube. So you want to make sure that the seat is straight. So because this is a jumping bike, you really want to make sure that everything is nice and tight. So let's get this bolt nice and tight. It's going to take you a minute. Okay, so with that tightened down, now we can go ahead and adjust our seat angle. Okay, so if you have a rider that's really pedaling the bike more, like sitting down and pedaling, you're going to want to get that seat flat. So you want the seat level with the ground. If you have a more advanced rider that spends most of their time standing up and doing tricks, then you'll end up with a seat a little nose high. That's so that when they're doing tricks like no-handers, bar spins, stuff like that, they can pinch the seat with their knees. So again, at this age, that's going to be a really advanced rider. So you may end up with a level seat. Now, to tighten it down, put your Allen key back in there just like we did before. So I put it in long way just to get it snug. And then when it's time to really tighten it, I'm going to just torque that down. And the seat's installed at the angle I want, nice and tight. All right, with assembly complete, almost ready to ride. So the last thing that we want to do is just a quick safety check on the bike. So first, just make sure there's air in the tires, so give the tire a squeeze. Make sure that they're firm. Pull the brake, make sure the brake is functioning as it should, and then you can use the Allen keys that came in the box. So just go through and just double check everything that you tightened, and then double check everything that we tightened. So double check the axle bolts, the stem, the seat. Once you confirm that everything is tight, go ahead, let your little one take it for a rip. Enjoy your new Bravo, and thanks for watching. Take care.